Hey, what's up guys? This is Rich with Red Phone Video, and today I'm going to talk to you about a movie that I just picked up from Kino Lorber. I just got this movie on Blu-ray, and I haven't seen this movie in years, which is why I wanted to talk about it a little bit. So I'm just going to do a little review for you guys and let you know what this movie's all about and why I recommend it. And this is a film called Split Image from 1982. So Split Image is a bit of an obscurity. It was directed by Ted Kotcheff, who brought us films like Wake and Fright. He directed Weekend at Bernie's, and he also directed First Blood, which came out the same year as Split Image. And the movie stars Michael O'Keefe as Danny, who also played a character named Danny in Caddyshack. Then you have Karen Allen, fresh off the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark, looking better than ever. She plays a character named Rebecca. She turns in a really fine performance in this as usual. Then you have a calm, charismatic Peter Fonda as this cult leader. And Brian Dennehy doing some of his best work as the distressed but loving father in the film. And of course James Woods, who delivers one of his most memorable madcap performances as this unhinged deprogrammer named Charles Pratt.
You got any coffee or a little bourbon?
Split Image, it opens up with Danny living this normal, privileged life as an upper-class athlete whose future is undetermined, but at the same time it looks bright for him. He's a star gymnast, and he's got a nice family who supports him, and he's no slouch with the ladies. Then he meets Karen Allen at this local bar, and immediately he wants to do it with her, but she has a better plan. She's going to abstain from sex and show Danny what real love is all about.
Have you ever had the feeling of being connected to someone in a way that goes beyond understanding?
To be honest, if early 80s Karen Allen was sitting at a bar eyeballing me like that, I'd find it pretty hard to resist the temptation of running away with her to go join this crazy religious cult. But anyway, Karen Allen's character, Rebecca, she takes Danny down to this gated commune called Homeland, which is run by this guy, this seemingly friendly guy, Kirklander, played brilliantly by Peter Fonda. And the more time Danny spends with Rebecca at this fundamentalist plantation camp, the more he realizes he's being manipulated by Kirklander and a lot of his strange cohorts. So by the time Danny realizes it might be advantageous to escape this loony bin, it's already too late because he finds himself basically unable to leave because he's under Kirklander's control now. This is honestly one of the best films I've ever seen about mind control, brainwashing, indoctrination. At times it comes across a little ham-fisted and unrealistic in how it handles the material, but it makes up for that with the competent direction from Ted Kotcheff and of course the powerhouse performances from the talented cast. Arguably the most intriguing aspect of the movie is how it delves into themes of duality, the duality of man, the duality of human nature, which is touched upon in the first act when our main character Danny catches a screening of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and he discusses the film's meaning with Rebecca and a few of the other cult members.
How'd you like the movie?
Well, I think obviously it's about the duality of our nature.
That's great. That's as clear as you're going to get.
So in this scene, it's pretty clear that Danny's just going along with what he believes Rebecca and her friends want to hear. Little does he know, he's already being examined, he's being conditioned, and in the process of being recruited as a member of the commune. So I thought this scene perfectly set up the allegory early on that served as an undercurrent as the story unfolded. What's interesting in this movie is that the Homeland compound is basically a microcosm of how society almost always operates to some degree or another. The film basically juxtaposes life in the real world and life on the commune to present us with a dichotomy and express how we as human beings are never truly free, whether it be physically, mentally, spiritually. Because in life, we wrestle with complexities, we wrestle with emotions, we wrestle with nuances, and the uncertainty of certain outcomes. Like Danny's character in the movie, we might live a sheltered, secure life, but at the same time, we seek meaning and we're yearning to break free somehow. And then on the other hand, we might discover what we deem to be freedom, but then we just end up looking for more safety and security. So I thought this movie was interesting because it explored that whole conundrum that we struggle with as human beings. I thought it examined all that really well.
We must rescue them from death in life.
We must rescue them. We must rescue them from death in life.
And the parents, played by Brian Dennehy and Elizabeth Ashley, I thought they were perfect because they basically represented the boomer generation who most likely grew up as progressives, idealistic hippies, and then later on they settled for this life of excess and exceptionalism during that whole Reagan era. And although this subject matter is at the forefront of the story, it's handled in a way that makes you think instead of telling you how to think. So everything is expressed uniquely through the worldview of these characters. It's to examine the nature of compliance and complacency. So instead of heavy-handed messaging, this film presents us with ambivalent characters who constantly fear having their lifestyles and their dreams and their ideologies threatened and stripped away by anyone who opposes them.
I want to have a big apartment on top of a big building, so I won't have to breathe air pollution. So nobody can ask me stuff or take stuff away. I want to survive, and everybody better let me alone.
Now, in terms of how the story unfolds, I had a bit of an issue with how quickly OKeefe's character falls under the spell of Kirklander. It seems a little jarring and abrupt, but you buy into it because you realize that Danny is so vulnerable and in love with Karen Allen's character, Rebecca, that he could easily be swayed at this point, as most young, impressionable people normally are. The best parts of this film, though, honestly, revolve around James Woods, his sleazy, mustachioed, unkempt character, Pratt. And as usual, James Woods steals the show in every scene he's in. He's a sloppy, sleazy-ass guy, but you're on board with him for the most part because you can tell he's determined to bring down Kirklander's cult and, attempt to debug all the dogmatic New Age bullshit that Danny's brain's been bugged with.
I am the worst enemy that this man has. He once told me he would like to take a chainsaw to me.
A lot of the deprogramming scenes in the second half really showcase Ted Kotcheff's talents as a director. Like, there's some impressive scenes from Danny's POV where Kotcheff uses this wide-angle fisheye lens to show Danny's distorted frame of mind. And then there's some brief moments of surrealism that use hallucinatory imagery and sound design to sort of punctuate the tension and the disorientation.
Not Joshua is dead! Danny is totally reborn! Do you understand?
Michael O'Keefe's performance from one scene to the next is a little inconsistent at times, but it's the acting chops from Brian Dennehy and James Woods that, for me, really carry this movie from the 1 hour mark to the final act.
Daddy, they're hurting me. Get out of this fucking room! Damn it, let it go!
Now, speaking of Brian Dennehy and James Woods, they would later go on to team up on Larry Cohen's movie Bestseller, which is also worth checking out. I highly recommend Bestseller. But I had a bit of a Mandela effect with Bestseller, thinking that it was the movie that featured James Woods manhandling Brian Dennehy, spitting on him and throwing him around like a little bitch, basically. But when I revisited Bestseller, I didn't see that scene, and I knew I'd seen it before. I knew I wasn't crazy. So I was relieved to find out that I didn't dream that up, because turns out all that shit was in this movie.
Kill your father! Kill your father! So fuck him!
You're right. He spends his life kissing the asses of rich clients. He is death in life itself.
Kill your father! Kill your father!
I did find the last few minutes of Split Image to be a little hasty and anti-cathartic, almost like it wrapped things up too quick for my taste. It's a little bland, but Ted Kotcheff executes it in a very straightforward, deliberate manner, just like he does in most of his films. And I had to remind myself that this wasn't just an action thriller or horror film in the vein of those cult films like Midsommar, The Sacrament, or even, stuff like Martha, Marcy May, Marlene. It's more of a character-driven family drama with suspenseful moments that's more akin to, say, something like Ticket to Heaven, which is another early 80s film that deals with similar concepts of indoctrination and deprogramming. All in all, Split Image, though, is an enjoyable film, guys. The story moves with intent, and it was made during a time when filmmakers knew when to cut the fat and get to the point. The film's not without its problems, of course. Like I said, the expediency of certain dramatic moments that I felt could have been drawn out and heightened a little more. But the acting from the awesome cast more than makes up for it, and it made some of the more illogical and underwhelming moments seem more convincing to me. Also, I just wanted to mention some familiar faces that turned up in the film, which was a nice surprise. You had the lovely Pamela Ludwig from Over the Edge, an awesome film about lost, troubled youth. You had Peter Horton from Children of the Corn, another film about lost, troubled youth. And then, out of the blue, you had Bill Engvall as a student. So, to sum it up, this movie's a winner, guys. It's entertaining, and the script, which was co-written by the Karate Kid's Robert Mark Kamen, that was solid, and the score by Rocky composer Bill Conti was a highlight too, which brings my personal rating of this film to 4 coked-up, manic James Woods heads out of 5. So, if you haven't seen Split Image, I suggest you pick up this new Kino Lorber Blu-ray. To my knowledge, this is the first time this film has been presented in its original aspect ratio, probably since its initial theatrical run. And I thought the transfer looked great. I didn't have any issues with it. It's a pretty bare bones release. The only thing you get is a commentary track from film historian Daniel Kramer. But as of right now, it's sitting at a price point of $16.59 on the Kino Lorber website, so I'd say it's worth picking up. But that is it. That is my review of Split Image from 1982, directed by Ted Kotcheff. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys tuning in. You've been listening to Rich with Red Phone Video, and if you like this kind of thing, be sure to stab the like button and subscribe to my channel if you'd like. And until next time, take care, keep watching awesome movies, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Now nail those fucking windows shut.